Hello everyone, welcome back to IASbaba. This is the discussion class for Geography Mains 2025 paper. This year, the question paper was much on the lenient side. In the GS paper 1, out of 20 questions, there were around 7 questions on geography. 4 questions were simple 10 marker, and the remaining 3 questions were 15 marker. Around, if I see with respect to the difficulty level, 5 to 6 question were direct and easy, 1 to 2 question was application based, and you will be surprised to see how many number of the questions were repeated. Out of these 7 questions, 1 question was climate change and sea level rise related. It was based on the current affair. Yes, the submergence of the island nation is much much discussed threat, and it's not just recently appeared in the news. They are in the news since long time. Submergence of the island nation in the Pacific Ocean was going in the news, and also in the World Economic Forum this was discussed. Then there was one question on non-farm primary activities. It was not current affairs, simple straightforward question it was. Then there was one question on the solar energy. It was there in the news as India became the third largest producer of the renewable energy in the world. Tsunami, 20 years of tsunami in 2024 took place, and also recently there was tsunami in Japan. So it was because of this, it was there in the news. There was a question on the oil field, that is onshore and offshore. So recently Rajya Sabha had passed a bill related to this oil field, and also there is oil war that is going on in the wake of the Russia and Ukraine war. Artificial intelligence, drones, GIS, and remote sensing related question. So yes, it was also there in the news, use of AI and drones in the disaster relief, and it was a very logical application based question, and there was one fundamental question on plate tectonics. So let us start with the very first question. The question says, how are climate change and sea level rise affecting the very existence of many island nations? Discuss with example. Here the demand of the question was very simple: climate change and sea level rise, how they were affecting the island nation. So it is very obvious, and we all know that the global warming is causing the rising sea level, and because of which many island nations are facing the threat of submergence. So it is asking with example. Now before proceeding ahead with this question, let me show you the previous year's relevance of this question. It is a repeated question basically. Earlier it was said that IPCC has predicted a global sea level rise of about a meter by 21st century. What would be the impact in India and other countries in the Indian Ocean region? So already in 2023 this question was asked, and there was one more question in 2022. Explain the causes and effects of the coastal erosion in India. What are the available coastal management techniques for combating the hazard? So this is also with respect to the sea level rise. And in the current affair aspect, if you see, it was there in the news as some Pacific Ocean countries like Sierra Leone, this island nation is facing the threat due to the rising sea level. So it is very simple, and it was a repeated question, much expected question. So here we could have started, since we have one IPCC report related to this. You could have started this in the introduction or in the conclusion. So according to the IPCC report, the report name is SROCC, Special Report on Ocean and Cryosphere 2011. It says the global mean sea level rose by 1.4 millimeter per year between 1901 to 1990. So this rise in the sea level and climate change could affect the existence of many island nations. Okay, so it was a very old report, and this finding of the report could be used in answer writing such type of questions. Though it may not be a very immediate like last 1 year ka report, a older report can also work. The impact are multifaceted, affecting everything from their land infrastructure to the fresh water supplies and economies. So what are the impacts on? So the coastal area submergence can take place Many coastal nations, for example, the Kiribati, since the demand of the question was also to mention the example, so many coastal nations like Kiribati, Maldives have an average elevation of only a few meters, and here the NASA is projecting that by 2050, this Kiribati would experience 65 days of high tide flooding annually. So here I'm giving authentic data, like NASA ka data I'm giving current affair related examples. Okay, what is the second impact? The freshwater contamination. As the sea level rise, it will lead to the salinization of the fresh water. Okay, then the decline in the agricultural land along the coastal area would become saline enough, and this would affect the crop productivity and will increase the food insecurity. Then the ecosystem destruction can take place. Climate change, like rise in the ocean temperature, ocean acidification, is leading to destruction in the coral reefs and the mangroves. So this is with respect to the impact upon uh, the environmental impact. Now the another part of this answer could be the socio-economic impact. So obviously, when the entire nation is getting submerged, so people will be forced to migrate. The people will be displaced from this region. Over here, example may I have given Kiribati. Kiribati have already created lands in Fiji island as a preparedness to evacuation, because they fear that in the years to come the people needs to be migrated. Economic disruption would take place as most of this island nation are dependent on tourism and fishing for their economy. So climate change would severely impact the economy. Territorial sovereignty, when the country itself is submerged, uh, what territorial area people is going to claim for. Okay, so that is one major threat that they would be experiencing. As an example, I've written Maldives, that 80% of the Maldives is at the height of less than 1 meter, and it is estimated that by 2050 80% of the country would become uninhabitable. So it is a major threat, 80%. So all the population would be concentrated in uh, around 20% or less than that. So it is going to threaten the whole of the nation. So as outlined by IPCC not only from the report but also gave the recommendation. Uh, so it gave two solutions. One is the hard projections, like creation of the sea wall, dikes, and other infrastructure along the coastal area. And there is another solution, that is soft projection. Soft projection means that is environmental norms. So mangroves, sand dunes, etc., would help us as a human being to mitigate the effect of the climate change and prevent the coastal nation from submergence. So I believe the demand of the question is satisfied by this, and as a part of the as a part of IASbaba's mains exclusive program. Yes, this topic was already taught by me, and this is the uh, PPT screenshot of the same. The regional exposure South Asia and India, and the urban exposure with respect to that of the sea level rise. Okay, so this was already explained during the class of this year 2025. Let us proceed ahead with the another question now. Here, the demand of the question is, what are the non-farm primary activities? How are these activities related to the physiographic features in India? Discussed with suitable example. Now, here you need to understand what is the physiography, different parts of that of the India. So we know with respect to the physiography, we have the Himalayas, we have the deserts, we have the uh, Indo-Gangetic plains, we have Deccan Plateau, we have the uh, plateaus, we have the coastal areas. So this is a major physiographic division of that of the India. In these regions, what are the non-farm primary activities that can be followed? So as such, you can do it this way. You mentioned specific physiography of India, like Himalayas, the Indo-Gangetic plains, or the Peninsular Plateau, and later on in these regions, all economic activity which is non-farm primary activity can be mentioned. Okay, what are the basic non-farm primary activities? We'll understand this. So India's diverse physiographic region, and as such, there is a similar type of question being asked earlier also. We'll see that. So you can see here earlier there was a question with respect to that of the resource potential of the Himalayas, and as a part of the means exclusive program, this was also taught what are the resource potential of the Himalayas. Then there was one question with respect to the resource potential of that of the coastal area, the marine area, and I had also in my teaching I had also included what are the resource potential of the Deccan Plateau region. So out of these only the entire answer could be framed. Like for example, the Himalayas is rich in rivers, so rivers में fishing can be done. It is like of course agriculture, but since the demand of the question is non-farm activity, so you can talk about fishing. Then other activities, primary activities is saying, so you don't mention about the uh, infrastructure like hydroelectric projects and on Deccan Plateau region में what non-farm activity can be done. So over here timber, medicinal plants can be cultivated. Water as a very important resource is found here, and here the non-farm activities like fishing can also be done. Oil and natural gas is also available, so mining, minerals is available. And talk about this. And in the coastal area is very significant for the food resources like fisheries, of course energy resources, minerals are also there. Okay, and tourism though it is there, but it is not non-farm primary activity. Tourism is basically the tertiary activity, so cannot mention this, but yes, you can certainly mention about salt production. Okay, so basically the answer for this is also more of ready if you had attempted previous year's question. So here it says the India's diverse physiographic region like Himalayas, Peninsular Plateau, coastal areas, northern plains and island influences the non-farm primary activities like mining, fishing, forestry and salt production. So what are this non-farm primary activity? As the demand of the question is what are non-farm primary activities, so you need to justify this part. But see to it that this is not the main demand of the question. So this is just 20 to 30% demand of the question, and this is around 70 to 80% demand of the question. So here non-farm primary activities like are the economic activities that are based on the directly on the natural environment that do not involve crop cultivation. Examples like mining, forestry and lodging, fishing, animal husbandry, salt extraction, these are non-farm primary activities. So let us take individual physiography, individual region, and attempt this. So here Himalayas and northern mountains. Economic activities in this region could be the animal husbandry, forestry and timber, because Himalaya is very significant for the forest also. So forest and timber collection is very prominent here, especially the coniferous forest. Then medicinal herbs and because of the animals, wool production is also there. Okay, in the states of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand. We can also mention about the northeastern Himalayas, wherein the forestry and timber collection is the dominant activity. In the Indo-Gangetic Plain, what is the dominant activity out there? As such, this region is dominant for farming, but non-farm activities like inland fishing, dairy farming are more prevalent there. We can also talk about important uh, Indo-Gangetic plains. So this plain is very significant for mining. Mining what? Sand mining. Okay, especially the river sand mining. Okay, Peninsular Plateau, it is rich in minerals and forest, making it very ideal for mining, forestry and animal husbandry. States like Jharkhand's Chota Nagpur Plateau, Chhattisgarh, Bastar Plateau are very prominent region for the mining. Coastal area is significant for marine fishing, salt extraction, and other non-farm activities. So the coastal states, which is from the Gujarat till West Bengal, are well known for the marine fishing. Even in the Kerala, sand, monazite sand, is very famous for thorium extraction. So mining of thorium can be done. Thar Desert region, Rajasthan, animal husbandry is major occupations, especially of animals like camel, sheep, goat, okay, which is dominant in the Barwan and Jaisalmer region of Rajasthan. Here, mining activity of gypsum, salt, and limestone is prominent activity in the Sambal Lake. So, India's physiography is the determinant of how the people extract and utilize these natural resources, shaping the economic landscape of its different region. So out here it was application based, very nice question, I would say. Having attempted this question, let us proceed ahead to the next question now. Here this question, very expected question, explain beautifully the ecological and economic benefits. They have mentioned ecological benefit, economic benefit of solar energy generation in India with suitable example. Very simple question. It is a repeated question. It is a current affair based question. So let us see. In 2020, UPSC in GS paper, that is geography itself, had asked that India has immense potential of solar energy, though there are regional variation in its development. So here the demand of the question was little different, potential, and you need to mention the regions where the solar energy production could have been done in India and the regional variations, why this region variability is there. And in the current affair, it was that India became the third largest generator of renewable energy through wind, solar, and power, and it overtook Germany just a couple of months ago. So here, since this question was very easy, simple, I had like elaborated this a little bit. So solar energy provides a significant ecological and economic benefit. Everybody knows about it. They provide clean renewable power sources and thereby helps in reducing environmental degradation and foster economic growth. So in the demand of the question was ecology and economy. So in the introduction, main body, conclusion, these terms should be reflected very oftenly. So India produced more than 108 gigawatt hour of the electricity, making India the third largest solar energy producer in the world. Now you had added a current affair dimension in this. What are the ecological benefits? It reduces greenhouse gas emission, and it is India's objective also. Now, the solar power production releases basically net zero emission of greenhouse gas, and as an example, you could mention that a typical rooftop solar system can offset 7 to 10 tons of carbon dioxide annually. Such a great benefit. Minimal water consumption. So thermal power plant, they use extensive amount of the water over here. The water is not needed as such, except for the cleaning and maintenance purpose. So 1 megawatt solar installation can save around 5 million liters of water annually. Air pollution control can take place. So unlike thermal power plants which releases greenhouse gas and other pollutants into the atmosphere, your solar power plant doesn't release anything as such. It reduces the land degradation, and of course it does not make pollute the land. So all unproductive land, barren land, infertile land could be used for as a solar power plants. Okay, for example, Badla solar power plant, which is the world's biggest solar park, is located in the arid region of the Thar desert. Okay, it also help in reducing the diversion of the minerals like coal. Coal could be utilized for some other economic purpose. What are the economic benefits of solar energy? So energy security, as we all know, the India is largely dependent upon the import of the energy, and if we are able to meet the demand of the energy requirement in the India, or import could be reduced and India can become self-sufficient in energy. Around 60% of the India's electricity is produced how? By burning of the coal and other fossil fuels, which is mainly imported one. In this way, it helps to reduce the import. It would also help in the job creation, that the solar energy sector is creating millions of the employment opportunities in manufacturing, maintenance, installation, and research of the solar energy. It would also help in the cost saving for the consumers. See, for example, Pradhan Mantri Surya Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. This was a initiative by the government. The objective was to generate own energy and thereby significantly reducing the electricity bill. So the consumers can reduce on the electricity bill by installation of small solar panels on their own rooftop of their houses. So it also help in decentralization of power. Let us example thermal power plants. The electricity is produced there, and then it is being transmitted also in the hydroelectric project. It is the dam where the electricity is produced, and then it is again transmitted. So those are centralized power plants over here. Solar electricity could be produced in any part, any place of that of the India. So it helps in decentralization of power generation. Even in the remotest area, this could be produced, and this is one of the best source of the electricity in the rural areas. For example, Palli village in Jammu and Kashmir became India's first carbon neutral village. It also helps in the powering of the infrastructure like airports, railways, bus depot. Those could generate their own electricity. They do not need to be dependent upon the plants like bigger plants. For example, Kochi Airport. It is 100% fully solar powered airport. Guwahati railway station. It is 100% fully powered railway station. So there is a widespread adoption of the solar energy, uh, and it is very important that because it is necessary for the sustainable development and more resilient, self-reliant energy in the future. Now this is with respect to the mains exclusive program. This is my notes wherein I had talked about the advantage of the solar energy for that of the India. So advantage is like more comprehensive, and this could be utilized in writing the answer. Therein I had also mentioned about the challenges of solar energy manufacturing in India, and other dimensions were also mentioned. I just took the screenshot of what is relevant. Now moving on to the next question, another 10 marker question. So here the question was what are tsunami, how and where are they formed. So this is another part. So what are tsunami, this is one part. Second part of the question is how and where are they formed. Okay, third is what are the consequences, this is third part of the question, and explain with example. So there are basically three important parts in the question, and for 150 word this is relatively very multidimensional, should have been given for 250 words. So starting with the first part of the question, what are tsunami? So tsunami here, this could be um, framed in the introduction itself. Tsunami are the series of powerful waves caused by the large sudden displacement of the water. So unlike normal wind drives waves that only affects the surface, tsunami move rather the entire water column from the ocean floor to the surface. Okay, formation of the tsunami, how it is formed, that is the second part of the question. So basically it's asking you to explain the process. So tsunami are formed by as we all know, that is formed by this powerful earthquake in the underwater, especially in the subduction zone. So in this zone, the tectonic plate movement releases seismic wave displacing massive amount of the water. So these are mainly formed at the plate boundaries. Okay, around 80% of the tsunami in the world occur along the Pacific Ring of Fire. The 2004 tsunami in the Indian Ocean occurred at the Java Trench. What are the consequences? Now this is the third part of the question. What are the consequences of the earthquake? Consequences of it should have been what are the consequences of the tsunami. Okay, of course it is caused by the earthquake only, but tsunami should have been written. So the consequences of tsunami is catastrophic, extending far beyond the environmental impact. So we can mention about all the various dimensions. So it causes massive destruction, like and the loss of life. The sheer force of the tsunami can damage building, infrastructure, an entire town, killing people both onshore and offshore. 2004 tsunami had actually killed more than 2 lakh people in around 14 countries. There are environmental damages also. As the influx of the sea water, what does it do? It it affects the fresh water supplies. It affects the agricultural land, and make them unusable for several years, because it increases the soil salinity, kills the vegetation crops, and causing long-term food shortage. Economic impact: the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and the tsunami in Japan, in the Fukushima, led to this nuclear disaster. It destroys critical infrastructure like ports, power plants, and communication system. Causes displacement and the social disruption. So social impact. So often survivors often lose their homes, livelihood, and the entire communities, leading to the large-scale displacement and the long-term psychological trauma. So, in the wake of the catastrophic disaster, uh, the tsunami causes the guidelines of NDMA. In the conclusion, you can write that what are the NDMA guidelines. So, the guidelines of the MA recommendations of the Sendai framework on disaster resilient infrastructure should be more effectively done. So, here in the conclusion, you had mentioned also about the uh, how the mitigation of the tsunami can be done. Okay, here as a part of the mains exclusive program, I had taught this in the classroom, and this is the notes for that. What are the causes of that of the tsunami? So the several causes and the effects of that of the tsunami. So all the effects is mentioned out here. So using these, the questions could have been written. Also in 2017 there was a question on tsunami. Into the it mentions about the 2004 tsunami. So it says it brought havoc on 14 countries. So what are the factors responsible for occurrence of tsunami, effects of the tsunami on the social and economic life, and the guidelines of the NDMA? Why was it asked in 2017? Because 2016 the National Disaster Management Authority came out with the guidelines, several guidelines, and it was like a major reform in the year 2016 had taken place, and 2017 was the question. Now this was asked basically in the disaster management. This question, tsunami, was asked in disaster management. This year it is asked in geography. Here in the it is with respect to the 20 years of the tsunami. 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake transformed tsunami signs. Of course it was mentioned in the Hindu, and also there was tsunami in Japan recently. Let us now proceed towards the last three 250 mark 250 word question, that is 15 marker. So here the question is, give a geographical explanation. The demand of the question is very clear: geographical reasons for the distribution of the offshore oil reserves of the world. And subsequently it is asking, how are they different from the onshore occurrence of the oil reserves? So here in this case, let us see the relevance. So in 2021 there was question is, discuss the multi-dimensional implication, that is the impact of uneven distribution of mineral oil in the world. So this is not very specific to onshore and offshore. It is talking about the impact of the uneven distribution of the mineral oil in the world. So here one should have prepared it very thoroughly this year itself. With respect to the various onshore oil fields, offshore oil fields, and what is the reason for the formation of the oil fields in those regions? Okay, the distribution of the mineral oil, crude oil in the world. And there is also one question I remember. It was basically on the oil refinery. Okay, oil refinery. So this was a very significant question for UPSC. Here in the current affair also it was there. Rajya Sabha passed an oil field bill to delink the petroleum from mining. So it was very much expected that this type of the question would be asked. Let us see the demand of the question. So offshore oil reserves are a significant part of the world's energy supply, and the distribution is directly tied to the planet's geological history. Of course, what are the geographical reason? It is the geology of that place. So these reserves are concentrated in the ancient sedimentary basin that were once submerged under the water. The formation of both onshore and offshore oil reserves involves a similar process. Okay, because the demand of the question is also, what is the how are they different from the onshore and occurrence of the oil reserve from that of the offshore. As such, there is not much differences, but yes, they are onshore and offshore, so there would be some reason. So, geographical distribution of offshore oil reserves. So, the first part of the question, let us satisfy. Here, these are some major offshore oil reserves in the world that is given in the Gulf of Mexico, KMZ, and the offshore of the Brazil. It is the Campos and Santos. You can see in the North Sea, the Clare oil field in the Persian Gulf region, Safania oil field that belongs to Saudi Arabia, and Upper Zakum that belongs to UAE. So, since the demand of the question is distribution, so it is very much expected that students should draw a map in such cases. So here, the global distribution of the major oil reserve is not random. It is concentrated in areas that have right geological conditions for the oil formation and trapping. For example, in the continental margins, the majority of the oil reserves are found along the continental margins. Okay, particularly in the broad submerged shelves where the ancient delta and marine environment created ideal condition for the accumulation of organic matter. Some major basins in the world are the Persian Gulf, wherein Safania and Upper Zakum is there. In the Gulf of Mexico, it is KMZ, that is Ku Malub Zap in the Mexico. In the North Sea, it is the Clare oil field. And also in the case of the offshore Brazil, there are some massive pre-salt reserves that is found. So while there are some fundamental process of the oil formation and which is relatively same in the case of onshore and offshore, there are some differences as well. The difference from the onshore oil reserve is the formation environment. Offshore oil reserves, by the definition, were formed in the ancient marine. Since it is offshore, so it is formed where in the ancient marine environment. On the other hand, the onshore reserves, while often found in the areas that were once sea, can also be formed from the organic matter in the ancient lakes or the swamps. Geological traps. Uh, in the onshore geological trap. So the kind of the geological trap that holds the moisture can also differ. Of course, offshore traps are more frequently associated with the unique feature of ancient seabeds, such as large anticlines and the sea domes. Scale and economies also vary. Offshore oil reserves are often larger and more productive than that of onshore. That justifies much higher cost and technological complexity in the offshore drilling. So while both onshore and offshore oil reserves are important, what is more important is the need of emphasizing on renewable sources of energy in the wake of the global warming and climate change. So here I had differed from the demand of the question. Okay, uh, wherein uh, the stress was given on the renewable energy sources. Okay, here like in the conclusion and all, you can mention such type of the points. You don't have to be always very yes to the question every time. And as a part of the mains exclusive program, okay, I had mentioned about the oil production, and this was with respect to that India and the world also. So some onshore and some offshore. The process of the formation of these um fuel was also covered. Now coming to a very very unique question and very much expected. So here it is like the artificial intelligence drones. I If you remember, in the year 2017, UPSC had asked a question on Juno mission. Okay, it was in geography. 2018, UPSC had asked a question on IRNSS, Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System. Both were basically satellites. Okay, and this was asked in GS paper 1. So, as a part of the satellite, this should have been asked in the space technology. Yes or no? Technically, in GS paper 3. But UPSC asked them in GS paper 1. You cannot do anything to UPSC. Um, so, science and technology was linked with the geography, and the question was framed. And here, same artificial intelligence, drones, geographical information system, remote sensing technique, and how their usage in the locational and the aerial planning. Okay, in the location and the aerial planning is to be done. So here It was not something which was unexpected type of the question. UPSC had previously asked a question on the satellites and technology, so this question could be easily attempted. So the demand of the question is the is like you're supposed to see how AI, drones, GIS, and remote sensing technique are useful in the locational and aerial planning. So it's very important that you need to have a substantial data, and those data should be analyzed extensively before the planning activity of any region is done. So here, the combined use of the AI, that is artificial intelligence, drones, GIS, and the remote sensing technique, it creates a powerful integrated framework for the modern locational and the planning pattern. So this synergy, that is all of this. Earlier, what did we had earlier? It was mainly GIS and remote sensing. Today we have AI and drones also. Okay, so this synergy would transform the planning from a reactive model manual process to that of the proactive data driven one. So a good introduction. So what is the role of each of the technology in locational aerial planning? So remote sensing ka, what is the role? So it will help us to get uh, macro level data with the help of the satellites. It captures broader areas with the help of that of the image, and it will help us to create a map, land use, vegetation, water bodies, and the topography. GIS, geographical information system, it acts as a central hub for all the spatial data. So it is a platform that is used to store, manage, overlay, and analyze diverse data set from the remote sensing to the drones and the other sources. So it would help us to store, manage, overlay, and analyze the data sets. What is the usage of the drone? See, the satellites would be giving you the broader data, macro level data of a place. Drones can give a micro level data. So it gives high resolution and hyper local data that satellites are not able to capture. Okay, so they are the eyes on the ground, offering on demand data for the detailed site survey, creating precise 3D terrain modes, and monitoring construction progress in the real time. What is the use of the AI? AI, what not can be done with the help of this? AI serves as the brain, processing the vast complex data set that are too large for the manual analysis. Machine learning algorithms perform predictive modeling such as forecasting urban growth or identifying the optimal location for new facilities by analyzing dozens of variables simultaneously. So all that you can write for the artificial intelligence, you just write it. Okay, what are the application in the location? So we have understood about all the four, what are the role of each of these technology, now how they would be helpful in the locational and the aerial planning. So they would help in the optimize site selection. So AI algorithm can analyze GIS data to identify the best site for the new developments, and by considering the factors like zone regulations, land cost, proximity to the infrastructure, environmental risk, AI can help to shortlist viable location in a minute. Okay, like for example, the zone regulation, zoning. For example, the zoning of zoning for earthquake prone zones of the India can be created within a minute. Okay, then the landslide prone zones of the India can be created. The flood prone zones of the India can be created. All of this with the help of the AI, which was earlier done very manually. Then urban growth and the land use planning. So by analyzing historic satellites image with the help of the AI, they can predict future urban growth patterns. Okay, this would help in the preemptive planning for the infrastructure, what infrastructure would be needed in the urban areas, and how the resource allocation can be done. Not only that, disaster management and risk assessment. These technology have proved boon when it comes to disaster management and risk assessment. So where the drones can quickly do the survey. So earlier surveying was very difficult. Okay, manual survey was used to be done, but now it can be done with the help of the drones. So they quickly help the disaster stricken area to create a real time maps for the damage, which are then analyzed by AI. to identify the most affected regions and optimize rescue routes. AI can also assess long-term risk by simulating the impact of natural hazard. So it helps in simulating the impact of the natural hazards like flood, wildfires in the specific area. It also helps in the infrastructure monitoring. So drones can be regularly used to inspect large-scale infrastructure like power lines, pipelines, and roads. And AI can analyze the drone's image to automatically detect the damage or maintenance need, allowing for the proactive repairs wherever repair is needed and the repairing cost. This could also be done with the help of AI. So the integration of these technologies would allow planners to move from the static analysis to the dynamic, predictive, and highly optimized spatial planning for the cities, agriculture, and disaster management. So here in this case, it was somewhere there in the news that how Earth observation technology is transforming the disaster relief. So if not the whole demand of the question, at least some partial understanding could have been attained by reading this current affair. Now we are on the last question. Discuss how the changes in the shape and the size of the continents and the basins and the ocean basins of the planet take place due to the tectonic movement of the crustal masses. In this case, you can very easily attempt this question. It is basic, a very fundamental question as such, and it did not student need not waste time on this. See, 2014 there was a similar question: how are the world's fold mountain system located along the margins of continent, and bring the association between global distribution of fold mountains, earthquakes, and volcanoes. In this case, it is a question related to plate tectonic. Okay, and the question that is being asked is on the similar line, and this was already taught in the means exclusive program by me with respect to that of tectonism in the plates. Okay, and this is the content that I had delivered, and here is the question. So the question is: discuss how changes in the shape and the size of the continents and ocean basin of the planets take place due to the tectonic movements of crustal mass. So the demand of the question is very simple: tectonic movements of the crustal mass you are supposed to focus. It says, from the single supercontinent Pangea to several major and minor continents, from the single ocean Panthalassa to the several oceans today, the continent and the oceans have undergone huge change in the past and would continue to change forever. This continuous change is mainly due to the plate tectonics. So you have directly hit the bullseye by not beating around the bush, than saying that it is because of this plate tectonics movement of the plates. Plate movements which cause these changes can be of the several forms at the following boundary. It could be convergent, it could be divergent, it could be transform. What happens when two plates converge towards each other? So two plates, when they converge, they cause a change in the plate's shape, size, structure. So at the convergent plate boundary, the plates converge towards each other, resulting in collision and alteration of continents. The convergence of the plate could be of following types: the continent-ocean convergence, which leads to the formation of the fold mountains, which may be volcanic in nature. On the ocean side, leads to the formation of the trench subduction zone. An oceanic plate in this case gets subducted and destroyed. Example: the convergence of the North American plate and Pacific Ocean plate led to the formation of Rocky Mountains, the Middle American trenches, etc. And with this, the Pacific Ocean plate, the extension had taken place, and the further, the North American and the South American plate, the westward movement had taken. When two plates are oceanic plates, ocean convergence have led to the formation of the archipelagos, which is long stretch of this island. Convergence of the Indian Ocean plate and the Sunda plate have led to the formation of this Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, etc. Okay. Continent convergence had led to the formation of fold mountains and closing of that of the seas. When this way, this topography had changed. For example, Indian plate and Eurasian plate convergence led to the closing of the Tethys formation of the Himalayas. When it comes to the divergent plate boundary, in the following way, the changes had taken place. That is, when initial phase, when only the rift formation took place, it was mainly because of the divergence. Today we see this in the case of the Africa. When the plates diverge further away from each other, it leads to the opening of the sea, for example, the Red Sea. And when the oceans have diverged further, so sea floor spreading taken place, for example, the mid-Atlantic ridge. Here, the transformed fault boundary, it is okay if this part is not written, because it does not leads to the formation of any specific landform as such, but yes, it causes earthquake and massive level of destruction uh, of the social and economic aspect can be done. Plate as such do not get destroyed. So thus the movement of the plates have led to the changes in the shape and the size of the continents and the oceans, thereby forming the several landforms. And by this question session gets over. I hope that you are even in a position to attempt all of these questions, were able to understand them, and the crux of this preparation, I would say, is solve previous year's question paper. Means we see that around 4 to 5 questions were repeated. Okay, can you imagine that if out of 7 questions, 4 to 5 question is already being prepared by you, you may not even waste even extra seconds in these type of questions. Then I would strongly suggest that geography is also current affair based. So be very thorough with the current affair. And lastly, IASbaba's means exclusive program had proved to be very useful. So means exclusive program would help you to get the entire gist of the previous year's question paper and the current affair, and on the basis of this means exclusive program is designed. And this has been a trend every year, that out of 7 questions, for example, around 4 to 5 questions were discussed directly in the mains exclusive courses of ours. So I would strongly advise you that you take this mains exclusive program of IASbaba. And more on this we'll discuss when the new question paper comes. So all the very best, student. Good luck.